Hi, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Violeta Stoica. I am a level 3 QHHT practitioner, currently practicing in Prescott, Arizona. I have a background in nursing and psychotherapy, and I've been doing this beautiful work of QHHT since 2010. I have been trained by Dolores Cannon herself twice in 2010 and 2011. I took my classes in England with her, and it was such an honor to meet her. And today's interview is recorded on Dolores Cannon's birthday, April 15. And I just want to say happy heavenly birthday, Dolores, and thank you so much for changing my life for the better and for bringing this technique to the world, which is so, so empowering. Thank you. And I have today with me a client that had a session with me a while ago. Her name is Sue Mattson, and I will have her introduce herself to you. Sue, welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to share your story with us. Welcome. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me here. My name is Sue Mattson, and I guess I can say I'm a fellow journeyer on this path in this life. I'm retired or semi-retired, and I've had that situation for about 3.5, 4 years now. And so I'm kind of at a point in my life when decisions about what to do next are up front and center. My background is in biology. I'm a biologist and a science educator, but my career path has gone in a circuitous route. I've done work in animal welfare. I've done a lot of project work in educational materials development. I've worked at the level of universities at helping faculty improve their teaching. And then I guess I would say that I would characterize myself as a fairly reason-oriented person, evidence-based. It works for me. But I've come to this point in my life when I need to find answers to questions that have been in the background for a long time, and events in my life had steered me to QHHT as one tool for determining what it is I need to be thinking about and doing.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself. Your background is fascinating, and I'm so happy that you mentioned the scientific part and the evidence-based of your thinking and most part of your life, because this discussion will go to the other end of the spectrum. You coming from the research and evidence-based thinking. Thank you. All right, so I am very excited for you to tell us your story about your session that you had with me a while ago. It's been almost 2 years, right?
Right.
So you had plenty of time to see the effects and the manifesting afterwards.
Yes, I have. Well, what brought me to QHHT was I was in the middle of a process of trying to find some answers to questions about an event in my life. I had lost someone to suicide. His name was Bill. And in addition to the what might be considered normal grieving process, my internal and presented response was just way out of proportion to the nature of the relationship as it was, which was 25 years ago. And it was so much so that it was disturbing all aspects of my life. I also struggle with treatment-resistant depression, and having this event occur overlaid with that really took me out of the picture of a normal functioning life. And so I wanted to, and I had been trying to discover what accounted for the reaction. And I tried various methods, approaches, mediumship, intuitive readings, card readings, meditation, and that sort of thing. And my sense was the answer existed outside of my life experiences with this person, with Bill. There was something much more to it. And I had thought that perhaps QHHT would help me discover what exactly my relationship to Bill is, was, will be. And so that's why I came to the session, was to discover that in whatever technique was going to work best. And that's where we started. And also along the way, some other issues were raised and some were resolved. So.
So if I were to ask you, because I would like to jump a little bit ahead and ask you about the afterwards of the session, like what did you notice? And then we'll come back and discuss what you've learned in the session that led to the results.
Right. Well, there were two main things that I noticed. One was over time, and one was immediate. The one that was over time was the healing and forward motion that went on with regard to Bill, and how I had been experiencing his loss. And another had to do with my knees, which had been plaguing me and bothering me for years and years. So both, one came about subtly and one came about kind of dramatically. And I can talk about either
please.
One.
Yes, both if you can.
Yeah. Well, with Bill, what we ended up, where we ended up going was into past lives, and past life regression. And what I discovered, or what came forth, what was shown to me, was that I'd had lives back in medieval days, medieval Renaissance, and back in those times. I knew that because of the way things were, castles and, those heavy tapestry looking dresses and coats of armor, and it was pretty easy to define the period. But one event that happened during one of those lives was that I was riding a horse. I believe I was a female, and I was riding a horse in a field during a clear blue day, and I was attacked from behind and fell off my horse and subsequently died. And I think the weapon was whatever it is you call that when you joust, whatever that is. I'm not sure what that is. Jousting pole was something to that effect. Some long tool. And I lay there in the meadow, and that's where my session picked me up. It picked me up laying in the meadow, looking at, or observing to the extent that a dead body can observe itself wither away and kind of rot in the field and be, bones. And at the time during our session, I couldn't reveal much about the circumstances, but later on, in looking at past lives, it was shown that Bill was actually the one who killed me, and I didn't know it. Came from behind, and it wouldn't have occurred to me that would be the case, and it just turned out that was who it was. And with that discovery came all these questions about, well, why? And as part of uncovering the why, it was shown that we had been involved in many, many lives before, and that we were actually a split soul. So, one energy split into two different bodies in that particular case, and that one reason why he did what he did was it was part of his life path, or I guess I could say part of our life path, for at least part of us to experience killing. And if I think about it, during this particular life, he was a soldier in armor and going to battle. And why wouldn't it be beneficial to know what it's like to kill somebody? I can't answer that question, but that's sort of what I came to after our session, was it made sense. And the disproportionate reaction to his death began to make more sense. And in fact, it made perfect sense. If you're that entwined with each other, and have had that much history with each other, I think we had 16, I want to say 16 lives on Earth, and various configurations. Why wouldn't it be devastating and just a systemic reaction to a loss if you're actually a split soul, or you're sharing energy? And that's one thing that came out of that was some closure. So it made sense. And while it's not true that it was out of sight, out of mind after that, I could say it makes sense. I get it. And now I can move on. And I had the feeling of having a wound healed, very visceral. It took a while, but the feeling that I had back then is not with me anymore. And I attribute it to some of the uncovering of the information about previous lives.
That's wonderful, Sue. Thank you so much. And I just want to take a little bit of time to say about the split souls and the split souls. Even Dolores Cannon talks about. She's met these cases in her sessions, and sometimes split souls can go in more than two people at once. Sometimes the people that the soul splits into is people are in the same place, they have a life together, or they're in the same family or same community, and other times they'll be, and most of the time they're different genders, just like you were, and they could be at two other ends of the world, one living in Siberia and one in South America, for example, and they never met or they never meet in that lifetime because it's not necessary. So the purpose of having a split soul, just like the purpose of having the experience to kill someone, serves the same thing. The soul needs to have a larger, more varied experience to learn better how it is to live on earth from different aspects of living, of experiencing, of being. And Dolores Cannon said, we've been everything. We've been the perpetrator and the victim. We've been the doctor and the patient. We've been men and women, all religion, all regions in the world. So it's all for the purpose of having the rich experience that life on earth can offer. And it's so beautiful what you've told us about that past life and the multitude of past lives you've lived together. And it's so beautiful because it's a very complex subject. When you think of the split soul, is mind-blowing just to have the same energy in multiple bodies. And that, of course, explains your reaction as well for having this close connection with Bill in the past. Thank you so much. That's fascinating to me. All right, and please continue with what you wanted to say. Maybe the second part of the session.
Yeah. Well, first I'll just say that one message that came through in the session about Bill is that Bill took his life, and I struggle with treatment-resistant depression. My mind doesn't go there, at least not anymore. But the loss of his energy was actually, it was important for me to realize that my energy needed to go forward and to carry on in this life. If his life ended, mine didn't have to either. It didn't have to, and the message to me was I need to go forth and live, try to live the best I can and find answers to the questions that I have, and in that way honor him, and honor our shared energy and our shared time together on this earth at this point.
That's so beautiful. Very heart touching to me. Thank you very much for that.
Well, and so the other thing that happened was during our session, you had noticed that I had trouble getting up from my chair, and I'm a senior, but I'm like to think of myself as very mobile. But it is true that at that point, my knees had been giving me trouble for a long time. And one reason is that I have arthritis. I was active as a kid and did all kinds of high impact things. And so, the way that my knees are right now, the doctors say that I should get knee replacements in both knees, and that many people would have done it already. The condition is deteriorated so badly. And you had noticed that I had trouble getting up and had called upon higher consciousness to help me with that. And when I left that day, everything was still the same, but overnight it was as if a switch were turned off and the pain switch went away. And although it took a few days to feel completely resolved, it was as if there were it's not the arthritis. The arthritis is still there. The images show that the arthritis is still there, but I don't feel the pain to nearly the extent that I did back then. And, what's that's allowed me to do is to continue having an active lifestyle and not hesitate when, for example, I'm going to take a step down go down a stairs or go upstairs or go hiking or whatnot. And it was just a complete surprise to me to have that happen. And, I'm an evidence-based person. And, all I can say is that one day it was bad, the next day it was better, and the next few days better. And it's been a year and a half. And while, again, the arthritis is still there, and I do feel pain from time to time, it is nothing like it was. And so something happened. And, that something was I had a session, and something healed.
That's impressive. Even though the arthritis is there, the images show it. You don't feel the restrictions. You can now live more free. You can do hikes, right? You can go on hikes and enjoy nature and life more, not having the pain in your knees. That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's absolutely the way I've experienced it. It's, I can't say it's all resolved, but it's resolved enough that it's not in my conscious thinking every time I take a step.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very beautiful because it changed your life. It gave you more freedom, more mobility, right?
Yes, definitely given me more mobility.
Mm-hmm. And now that you're in this point where this freedom is with you, how do you envision your life in the future? Having all this happen to you and having this proof that you can now be free and mobile and do whatever you would like to do.
Well, it takes a barrier away. There, previously there was a barrier that was in the front of my mind, and now there's not a barrier, and the condition itself is in the back of my mind. So I can anticipate setting goals, and moving towards those without being encumbered by pain, and that translates to my experience with Bill as well. Although one process was much slower than the other, both of them have released me to go forward and be clearer and more focused on a goal or purpose than to be focused on what's weighing me down.
That's beautiful. So it sounds like no more restrictions, no more obstacles. You have clarity.
Yeah, there's clarity there. Before, I would say that thoughts of what I'm going to do next were pushed to the back of my mind. And they're pushed to the back of my mind because I'm dealing with something that doesn't seem to want to let go of me. And now, later, in the front of my mind is what am I going to do next? And that's a big leap. It's not that everything's now well defined. At some point it will be, but it's a big leap to go from having what you need to be doing and your purpose in the back of your mind into having it up front.
Yeah. Wonderful shift. And I have one more question because I completely forgot to ask you before. I cannot recall because it's been a while since your session, but do you remember having a question about your needs for the higher self or not? And on your list of questions that you came with to the
Actually,
session.
I did not have
you
that
did not.
as a question.
I had a suspicion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was your observation that made me go, oh, yeah, that's right. That does really bother me. It's when you live with something that really weighs you down and it becomes so common that you don't even think of it as
Yeah.
being a significant issue. And then it turns out it really is.
Thank you. I have another example in mind right now, and I'm going to talk about it really quickly. I had a client coming from Spain to Romania to have a session with me 10 years ago. And he came for different reasons. I'm not going to talk about that now, but about 3 weeks later, after he returned to Spain, he sends me an email saying that, you know, I had a right elbow pain that bothered me every time I played squash, and I forgot to tell you about it. But I just realized today playing squash, it's gone, and I didn't even tell you about it. And he offered some kind of explanation like yours, like I was so used to it. I didn't even think of asking about it because it was my normality. But this was one of the bonuses of his session. I mean, he got a bigger healing that I might talk a bit in a separate setting, but it was a small bonus on top of the big healing he's gotten. So I had a suspicion yours was the same. And I suppose I asked you about it when after we had the interview and we talked about your life, we got up to go to the bathroom before we set off to do the session, right? And this is when I noticed you got up kind
Right.
of in a
Right.
hard way. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wonderful. So you didn't even ask for this, and this happened for you. Thank you so much for making that clear to us.
Yes.
And my last question for you today, and it's if you have an insight from your life experience, from your session, or from who you are in this lifetime, for the women in our days, in our modern times, do you have a thought or an advice for them?
Hmm. Well, I can only speak for myself. Life is complicated. Um, there are some challenges that can be resolved relatively quickly, but many cannot. And in asking why or what can I be doing, one thing that came forth in our session is to follow my intuition. The first thing that comes up when I'm pondering something is likely to be the one thing that needs the most weight in consideration. So for me, connecting to my intuition more and not pushing it back has helped me clear the path to making some new changes as I move forward.
It's very beautiful. So you're encouraging women to trust more in their intuition, which is in
Yeah.
our nature also as women. Thank you so much for this beautiful answer. And I hope people will follow your advice. And it's coming from the highest source of knowledge from your higher self. And I think it's very valuable. And I'll say that many people that come for sessions will get something similar. Get in contact with me more, um, meditate, you will get answers from me, the higher self will say to
Yes.
people. Yes. So
Yeah.
this is very valuable. And it shows it helped you a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Sue, for being here with me and for allowing me to share your beautiful session with the world. I really appreciate it. We need more people like you to come forward and um, prove the value, the validity of the messages received in a hypnosis session like this, like QHHT, which is very empowering. And I thank everyone for watching. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the bell to get notified when I have a new interview or a new session. And see you next time. Thank you very much, everyone.